Citizen and lover of liberty, let me first tell you that you are in for a show today. But as usual, before I begin, and after having been burned a few times, let me ask you a very simple question to make sure to verify that I am indeed coming across 5 by 5. I want to make sure that you can hear me. I sound okay. I'm not too tinny. Everything's fine because we have, of course, these audio files that will sit back and will critique to the point of exhaustion everything and anything. So let me just make sure, dear friends, that you are hearing me, that you are listening to me, that I am clear and focused and pellucid and limpid, and that the audio clarity is without peer. Excellent. Excellent. Get ready for this, my friend. Let me make sure that you are subscribed to Lionel Nation. I have more for you today. This is going to be your best cram course in what you need to know today to get through the world. We're going to dispel things that don't matter. We're going to focus on stuff that really is critical. And we're going to also pride ourselves, I hope, in not being not falling prey to the usual drivel and nonsense. But before we begin, my friends, this incredible word from our incredible sponsor. Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? I recently saw a video he made, and he's in his 80s, and he still looks tremendous. He's working out, staying active. What's even more shocking is that he says he's stronger, he can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. And he did this by making just one change. And he says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing also, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. She says her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. And make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/Lionel or by clicking on the link below in this video in the description section. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/Lionel and click the link in the description section to watch the video now. You won't believe how simple it is. Just a reminder, the legendary Chuck Norris is 84 years old, and yet today has more energy than you can imagine. He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health simply focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. So watch this method by clicking the link in the description box below, chuckdefense.com/Lionel. Okay, my friends, let us begin with a couple of things. First and foremost, let us make sure that we understand how we view the world. Number one, I can only give you what I think, what my point of view is. Number one, I'm an American citizen. My only interest is in America, the United States. I want everybody to get along and be great and happy as a citizen of the world, but I am an American. My only rule as an American specifically is the Constitution. I know this sounds kind of corny, but the reason why it's corny is because it's true. The reason why it's true is because it's absolute. And sometimes absolute things sound kind of corny, but it's true. It's something you should know right off the bat. The role of government has been, in my life, for the most part, somewhat benign to an extent, except that it has, since maybe post-World War II, everything changed where it became adversary. Prior to the old days of, Will Rogers, people always talked about kind of a joyful reference to Congress. And, there's always been this toying in the days of Thomas Nast and yeah. But the bottom line is simply this. We have never seen at any point in our civilization, such blanket, blatant, and obvious lying, deception, prevarication, misrepresentation from what appears to be governments at every level. Here in New York City, we're seeing everybody from the highest, from the mayor's office to the police department to the fire department, we're seeing this incredible corruption, not across the board, not across the rank and file of these great and wonderful centurions and defenders of truth and law and order, but everything from the mayor's office to his corrupt and fetid group to two retired yesterday fire commissioners. So that's that. We haven't seen graft and people on the take like this in quite a while. Putative. They are presumed innocent, of course. The most incredible example of deception is that of foreign policy, international relations, foreign policy. It is like nothing you have ever seen. In your recent lifetime, they lied about Libya, they lied about Syria, they lied about weapons of mass destruction, Iraq, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Israel, China, Russia. Who do these people represent? What are they? How are they to affect us as rank and file American citizens? They lied to you about Russia. And never before, never have we ever seen the weaponization of lies and misinformation and deception more than in the case of what we've seen as to media. Media are the co-defendants, the accomplices. They are the accomplices. They aid and abet the media up until now. Let me give you a qualification. Up until now, they were it. Whatever they wanted to tell you. It was the New York Times. The New York Times was considered the Bible. It was considered everything. The New York Times was during my lifetime. My God. It was, they were it. Now a laughing stock. They've had to sell off huge swaths of real estate. The Sulzbergers and the Oxford family. I mean, it's gone. It's done. Even in the world of here locally, music reviews, theater reviews. Ben Brantley could make or break a play. They used to actually wait in the old days. They would go to Sardi's and wait for the reviews. It was, Atkinson, the restaurant reviews, Ruth Reichel. It goes down the list. It's gone now. It's been replaced by this incredibly fascinating and wonderful, very ecumenical thing called social media. If you want to find out about a restaurant, we have a thing here in New York called the Zagat report. You buy this book every year. They had the Zagat, and you see let's see who's the best Chinese. Ooh, this is wonderful. Ooh, now you go to Yelp, you go to Travel, whatever. You don't even you look at stars and pictures. You don't go to the Zagat file. David Mudry says, breaking news. Speaker Johnson claims thousands of illegals are on the voter rolls of Pennsylvania and Georgia. Indeed, thousands of illegals. Are they illegal voters, though? Is there a statute that prevents them from being voters? I submit to you, you don't even need illegals. But thank you for that, Mr. Mudry. Big John says, how's that morning coffee, Lionel? Let me tell you something, Johnny. Absolutely necessary. Forgive this rather elongated interview, but you've got to see kind of where we go right here. So I am at this stage. I know exactly what's happening. I swear to you, I see it. I understand it. And one of the things which I like better than ever, and I've been trying so much to explain to you, is that you must see things in movements and swarms when you watch. Ah, they finally locked up Diddy Combs. We'll talk about that, Rungy. And by the way, Mrs. L is where you have to go for that. She has been calling the shots in that. He has been arrested. We will get to that as well. But understand the prefatory. We always have new viewers. We always have new members of the conspiratorium. They have to understand kind of how this thing works, because if you want to go out in the world and you want to survive, you've got to be able to handle these things. And the first rule is to understand that you must recognize the collapse, and a wonderful word is the useless, is otios, O-T-I-O-S-C. It looks like otios, otios. It's this concretized, this like concrete, this anachronistic, this waste of time called what we used to be referred to in the old days as this horror show called mainstream media. And when people are there and they're making money, they're going to do everything in their power to hang on. CNN is trying desperately to maintain its relevance. And what happens is it has a core. Whenever you have a medium, you want your medium to expand. You want it to take off. You want it to flourish. That's the way people think. What's happening to those people, it is contracting. And the only people there are those who have been hanging on, those who get their newspaper in the morning, those who walk to the end of the driveway and get the newspaper, maybe if they even have that, those who like the New York Times, those who watch CNN, those who were raised and never caught on to the new. What is happening today right now is incredible. I watched this morning an analysis from two people. One's name is Max Blumenthal. The other's name is Aaron Mate. Two young men. Oh, they're 40s, I guess. But young. And they're wearing t-shirts, and they don't have a set. They don't have this forced posed, those constipated looks. Though Blumenthal sometimes will give you that look of, I'm in pain. I kid, of course. And in 20 minutes, they had some of the best summaries, the best historical references anybody has ever seen. And they pose an existential threat to the powers that be. Rachel Maddow, on her best day, she came in just at the tail end of the trajectory. These are the people. So right now, rule number one, understand something. You love your country. The government, federal government, intel, law enforcement, DOJ, Senate, House, you can call it the shadow government, you call it the deep state, you can call it the heritage, the whatever you want to call these people. Their job has nothing to do with perpetuating your freedom of the world. It's about maintaining power, and it's about maintaining ideas that, for the most part, you have bought into for years up until now. Now, let's start off with this one. In no particular order, there is a woman named Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton is able to exact and to encourage and to bring about so much incredible reaction. When I say reaction from people, like you cannot believe. This is the truth. She is unable to, you just mention her. Now, she is somebody, we must go back a little bit. Who is she? This is a woman who all her life was going to be the first president. Smart as a whip, probably smarter than Bill Clinton was to an extent, but never had whatever those interpersonal talents are. She never had that ever. She never had that. It wasn't part of her arsenal, so to speak. Okay, let me explain that to you. So that's that. Very important. That's number one. Number two, she was denied all her life. Denied. She came so close and was denied. Bill was Attorney General of Arkansas. Bill was governor, I think twice. Bill was running for office. He ran twice. She had to sit back. She had to sit back. She had to sit back. It was her time. Here comes Barack Obama. Oh, no, not yet, Hillary. But wait a minute. I could be the first woman. Not now. Not now. She sits out 2 times. Okay. They throw her this bone. They make her the titular, the actual, if you will, the actual New York senator. I think Nita Lowey, who was standing by and ready to take it, they basically told her, not your time. So they gave it to her. Then she was Secretary of State. But it was always the gift of party leaders, party whatever. It's always. Okay, that didn't work. So then later on, 2016 came along, and this indomitable force called Donald Trump came along. Donald Trump was something that changed every single aspect of what we call the deep state, the police state, the intel state, the shadow government, the ruling class, whatever it was, Washington elite, statist, heritage government. He came along on both sides and tore everything up, broke every rule there was, broke every rule, everything. And they said he has to be stopped. He's interrupting everything. And Donald Trump is like, if you've ever seen, I remember as a kid one time we broke a thermometer, the old fashioned thermometer, and it broke, and there was a globule of mercury. And trying to pick it up probably was dangerous, but we're picking it up. And I noticed that when you push down on it, it spread apart and it congealed. You couldn't contain it. You couldn't do anything with it. Say, what is this? What is this stuff? Is it a liquid? Is it an oil? I don't know what it is. You push, it spreads apart. They have beads and they congeal. It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen. That's Trump. Trump came along and we didn't even know what he broke every rule. They hit him with 90 lawfare. They unloaded everything they had. Everything they had on him. Everything. Lawfare like you can't believe. They were going to come after him with the emoluments clause. They impeached him twice. I think he had a total of 91 or so total separate indictments. Think about this. Think about what we're talking about. Not over things that nobody even knew. And he was like that piece of mercury. You push him down, and he comes back again, and nothing stops him. Then they went after his family. Nothing stops him. Then they tried everything. They went after, I don't know about this family. Thank God they left those people alone. They even wanted to go after Ivanka's patterns, or whether she sold or something with China. I don't even know. I have no idea. So he sat this one out. Became more powerful than ever. They went after his Twitter. They went after his social media. They went after. It's like the more they brought it up. They tried to kill him twice. Well, the second one, we'll get to this in a moment, because I'm not sure what this is. And the biggest problem, jumping ahead, is that he has become, and I will never say his name, his motivation is that of Ukraine. Okay? Ukraine. He wanted to go and fight on behalf of Ukraine, whether it's the Azov Battalion. If I told most people in the United States who is the Azov Battalion, the right sector, Stefan Bandera, they have no earthly idea. And it is because of our ignorance that shields them. If it was a sports concept, they would know 100%. But because of this, they're okay. All right. So they're thinking, oh my God, this guy, he's a nut. So people are going to say, well, is the Ukrainian thing crazy? This is his thing? He's Ukrainian? He doesn't like Putin? I thought not liking Putin was what everybody's supposed to do. We're supposed to hate Putin. Why? We just are. But he doesn't like him. So a crazy person doesn't like him. And think about what this is doing. This is like, oh no, this is not the narrative. Not only that, we don't even know what the hell they're charging this guy with. He didn't fire anything, so he had a rifle. It looks bad. It looks like, is this an attempted murder? I don't know, see how you're going to do it. Unless he said something that... And the very fact that he is not allowed to be dispatched ahead of time, he's going to be there. What's he saying? What motivated him? Who are the people that actually motivated him? Who are the people that created? What could he say? The State Department did. What? So we don't know. Luckily, again, most Americans have no interest in this whatsoever. Couldn't tell you the first thing about it. It means, frankly, nothing. Pilgrim says, remember her alleged drunken rage election night. I don't know how alleged that was, but nonetheless. Well, anyway, she's got a book coming out right now, and she's on with another show, Rachel Maddow, and both of them believe that they are forces to be reckoned with, that they represent huge factions and swaths of humanity, and that people believe them. This is Hillary, and let's listen to her usual tripe and tropes.
Being taught, especially by the media, that the more offensive he is, the more he can dominate the media space.
Now, this is, of course, Rachel Maddow trying desperately to come up with something. Rachel Maddow's claim to fame is in the way she speaks, her quirkiness. When Rachel Maddow, okay, so it's later. Okay. Rachel Maddow's claim to fame is the same as the British. We believe that British people are somehow, some are, not all, but that they're smarter by virtue of their received language and their, okay. Rachel Maddow has this thing where she's never on an MSDNC, which is a relic. I think she's like once a week. Who knows? I don't know. She writes books that nobody buys, the most arcane subject matter. But her thing is that she's the smart one, Rhodes Scholar, and she is very, very smart, but she says nothing. She's also the last vestige of these folks that really didn't matter. When Rachel Maddow came to MSDNC, I remember the time, people loved her. She had more people talked about girl crushers. And by the way, she is a very decent person. She is not... we worked together at Air America. She is absolutely one of the most courteous people. But understand, her job is to say nothing, and she's handed the line for her to spew, and they're hoping, above all, that you and others take the bait.
He's still being taught, especially by the media, that the more offensive he is, the more he can dominate the media space entirely. And
it's not so much offensive, but the more he speaks the unvarnished truth.
I feel like you've been a good diagnoser of that, not only from when you were up against him, but from when others have done so. Do you have an antidote for that, or a way that people can talk themselves out of taking that bait?
Now listen to this. Remember this. Listen to what first of all, notice the clipped delivery, which is critical to this, because she must appear to be smarter. Never question the veracity. Nobody will ever say, is anything that Donald Trump's saying, is it true? Oh, no. It's all contrived. It's all part of this mind control, so to speak.
I think that's really a critical question. And I think there's a couple of things going on here. You mentioned the press, and sadly, the press is still not able to cover Trump the way that they should.
Now, let's say something right off the bat. Did you hear what she said, my friend? The press. She's using a term the press. The press. Remember this. The very fact that she thinks there's this thing called the press. This is the press. Hillary doesn't get that yet.
They careen from one outrage to the next. What was outrageous 3 days ago is no longer on the front pages, even though it threatens the physical safety of so many people.
Now, remember this. They don't, the left, if you will, media or press don't do this. She does. Now, understand the irony of this. She does this. Hillary does this. Rachel does it. They do this. They careen and carom from one issue to the next. We don't do this. We don't see anything that he's saying that's in the slightest bit, frankly, sometimes newsworthy.
Particularly, as you point out, immigrants that he and Vance have decided to demonize. And
now, remember one thing. This is the best part about this. This is the trope that isn't working. This is the meme that isn't working. This is the idea, the thought vector. The idea that what motivates Trump and Vance and us, I guess, by virtue, is a xenophobia and a hatred. Nothing to do with crime, nothing to do with anything along those lines. That's the issue. That is the critical issue. That it's hatred. That this notion of crime is just fanciful.
And I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about
the press, the newspapers, Mencken, the idea of the guy, extra, read all about it. The paper, the broadsheet, the tabloids, and to have a consistent message. What she's saying is, I don't know why these people don't follow orders enough.
About how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist, Harry Evans, one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said.
Can you believe she's saying this on MSDNC? On the channel that gives us Morning Joe, Donnie Deutsch, that plagiarist, Mike Barnacle, Capehart, the usual Joe Scarborough, who is just objectivity on MSDNC.
I mean, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump. His demagoguery, his danger to our country. And
now, why is he a danger? This is the thing, which he's dangerous because of his popularity. And he's dangerous, Hillary, to you, not to the rest of the world, but to you, because he is your white whale. He is your focus.
In the world, and stick with it. They were merciless about what they saw as President Biden's, problems in the debate and
problems in the debate. Problems in the debate that George Clooney theoretically wrote about when he was handed, by the way, this thing to claim as his own. George Clooney couldn't cobble together a sentence if he had to. So she's now being inconsistent. You did this. George Stephanopoulos was the one who did it. See, she's rewriting history, a.k.a., parenthetically, it's called lying.
Calling for him to withdraw. I believe Donald Trump has disqualified himself over and over.
Why?
And over again to be a presidential candidate.
Why?
Let alone a president. The second thing.
Now, she never tells us why. The Constitution clearly doesn't provide for anything. Tell us why. Again, platitudes, flat statements.
Though, is that part of what Trump is counting on is for people to get desensitized.
Now, this is one of the things which is important. And by the way, please, you might be asking, why are we listening to her? Well, we don't care. But you have to understand the rhetoric and the propaganda of the enemy. You must understand what the enemy thinks if you're going to succeed. Okay? And she's the best of the enemy, even though in Hollywood, well, Hollywood too, but in DC, she doesn't understand it, but she's part of a bygone regime.
I mean, oh my gosh, did you hear what he said yesterday? Did you hear who he attacked?
No, you say that. We don't say that. Remember, we don't say that. You say that.
You hear the viciousness, and it just like with a shrug, okay, fine, we're moving on.
Well, the reason why we're moving on is because it might be because it's not important. And it's not because of some habituation or some desensitization or being accustomed to it. It might be because we didn't react the way you wanted to by being disgusted and aghast at something, which frankly is not subject to anything even remotely interesting.
Well, Americans need to understand that they have to take Trump both seriously and literally.
Okay, we do. Thank you.
Has said what he wants to do. He and his allies with Project 2025.
Now, this is the part which is the greatest thing in the world. Remember something. Remember, when you're in a debate with a spouse, and you could say, and you know, you've always had your eyes on so-and-so, and your spouse or partner or whatever would say, what? You've always had your eyes on so-and-so. No, he didn't. You've always had, it's like, excuse me, why are you saying that again? I never said that. And I know what you're thinking about that guy. You're doing this again. Excuse me, did I bring this up? It's not gaslighting. I didn't even know what it is. They honestly are told, listen, just keep talking about Project 2025. Now, what I think we should do is what I told you years ago when I was a kid, and I had this one old timer used to warn us about morphidites. And he says, y'all going to that carnival, aren't you? But be careful. You know, they got those people working them rides. And a lot of them were morphidites. I said, what? Morphidites. You mean a hermaphrodite? No, morphodite. What's a morphodite? You just be careful. I thought, what the hell's a morphodite? That's the second time he's made. Do you know what a morphodite? I don't know what. But this scares the hell out of me. It's like Boogeyman. That's the hard way. Project 2025. There it is again. What is it? I don't know. Trump has said, I don't know what you're talking about. But they stick with it. Just like with Charlottesville. Their rule is, and it's a very interesting thing, stick with the lies, never back down.
His desire to be a dictator.
And the dictator came when a joke he made with Sean Hannity. Remember that? Remember what this is. And she's talking about being accustomed to the habituation. She's doing this. Listen carefully.
At least on day one, all of that is in the public record. And I believe that more Americans have to be, willing to endure what frankly is discomforting and to some extent
That's why we're listening to you, to endure that which is discomforting.
Kind of painful. To take him at his word and to be outraged by what he represents. And then finally, the hopeful side of this is that I do think more and more Americans are rejecting the kind of chaos that he represents.
He represents chaos? Let me get this straight. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, rioting, people swarming over our borders. And by the way, say this, Springfield. Remember Springfield. You want to bring up Charlottesville? Springfield, Ohio. Springfield. It drives them crazy. It's that submission point that drives them nuts. You want to bring up 2025? We bring up Springfield.
We can't go back. That's what the Harris campaign says all the time.
Is that where is that what the Harris campaign says? Seriously, Hillary? Are you're serious?
We're not going back. We're not going back to, what he failed to do to protect American lives during.
Well, what about going back to Biden? See, it's like they just forget Biden. She wants to go back, not go back. She's still in. Hillary, do you know that she's still in office?
During COVID. We're not going back to the,
No, don't talk to us about COVID. Oh, no. We don't bring up COVID to us. Sorry. You got the wrong group here.
romance with dictators that puts, innocent lives at risk and America's security.
Romance with dictators. People, by the way, people that conflict with the notion of what the military-industrial complex wants, what this NATO wants, what the neocons want, what the war profiteers want. That's a different story. This is a woman, by the way, flouting with dictators. These are people tempting nuclear war. This is Nancy Pelosi, by the way, flying to Taiwan and going like this. And you're worried about this is the way you want to deal with, quote, dictators?
In danger. We can't go back and give this very dangerous man another chance to do harm to our country and the world.
Now, you know what this means.
Speaking
right?
of dictators, the Justice Department and the State Department have taken another of.
Okay, here we go. This is boy. She's just reading her lines. Isn't it something? One more little thing too. I know, but it's important for us to understand what she said.
Trump back in 2016, but I also think there are Americans who are.
Listen to this one and ask yourself whether she's ever heard of the Constitution.
Engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged, is something that would be a better deterrence, because
this woman spewing propaganda in the year 2024 actually said this. Carla, the cooking CEO, says she is no longer a master, just a pawn and trying to be still relevant. Hypocrite, megalomaniac. True. Ryan says Hillary Clinton's bitter rage is understandable. She'd waited patiently her whole life to run for president, only to have it ruined by all people, Trump. It's hilarious when you think about it, but she wants the revenge. Andrew T says she is just working from her playbook. Rules for radicals. Did her dissertation on it. Somewhat. By the way, there's a lot of good stuff that Saul Alinsky said, which makes a lot of sense. Crypto says, where is the public record? Great question. Great question indeed. Let's also talk about something else. This is very, very interesting. Did you see this one?
Friday afternoon, this country was reminded of the heightened and dynamic threat environment that the United States Secret Service and its protectees face on a daily basis.
Now, remember, this fellow on the left is the special agent in charge of the FBI, who I believe it was alleged was asked to take down some rather scurrilous anti-Trump messaging from social media. That's always good to know, isn't it? You would think people would say, I'm not going to be putting social media comments up until I leave my government employ.
Immediately following the assassination attempt of former President Donald J. Trump.
Now, this is interesting.
On July 13th.
On July 13th. Okay, remember. So that one was an assassination attempt. They can't get away from that one. And by the way, I love the haircut. I love it. It's kind of like Jim Thorpe meets, I don't know what.
The Secret Service moved to increase assets to an already enhanced security posture for the former president.
Now, do they have to say that? They have to say, we increase assets. Is this the way you would talk? Would you talk like I wouldn't do that. I want people to understand exactly. I would lose the military jargon, the police talk, assets, eyes and boots on the ground. Remember when they would say things like sorties, we engaged the enemy. Don't we know we shot at him, he shot at us? Speak clearly. Let's cop speak.
In the days that followed, President Biden made it clear that he wanted the highest levels of protection for former President Trump and for Vice President Harris.
The highest levels, except don't ask Bobby Kennedy what he thought about that, but that was a different story. But he wants the highest levels for President Trump. Okay.
The Secret Service moved to sustain increases in assets.
Assets. There we go. What is an asset? I mean, people? I mean, what does that mean exactly? I know. I think we know what it means, but I wish they would speak a little bit more clearly. And I always ask, who are these people in the back? Who is this woman on the right? What is she? Who are these people?
The level of protection sought. And those things were in place yesterday. At approximately 1:30 p.m., former President Trump was playing golf during an off-the-record movement to the Trump International Golf Course.
an off-the-record movement. I don't know what that means. You know what that means? Do you know what an off-the-record movement means? What does that mean? Off the record.
Former President Trump was playing golf during an off-the-record movement to the Trump International Golf Course. A Secret Service advance agent supporting the front edge of the agency's layered approach to protection.
The layered approach, the front edge of the agency's layered approach, the front edge of the layered approach of the assets, engaging the assets and the protectees and the assignees, and not the assignors, of said asset deployment and regroupment, layering, and protection vectoring, namely that of all assets and assets subsumed with under the rubric of asset designees.
Encountered an individual attempting to secrete himself in the woodline.
And we caught somebody attempting to secrete himself. How about a guy lurking in the bushes, hiding? Don't say secrete. People think like you secrete, glands secrete, people secrete. Why do they do this cop speak? I don't understand it.
This happened. The alleged gunman was on the public side of
alleged gunman. Okay, I'll give you that one.
the fence near the 6th green. A layered approach of security.
A layered approach. What does that mean? Can you tell us what that means? I know what layered is, but layered, you have one guy who said, hey, that's a rifle. Is that layered?
Is integral to the Secret Service's protective methodologies.
Okay.
And it's also the key to our success.
What about drones? What about drones? What about having assets within the perimeter? How about, would you have allowed those assets and that layered these formatics of such if Kamala Harris had been playing golf? I don't think so.
As former President Trump was moving through the 5th fairway across the course and out of sight of the 6th green, the agent, who was visually sweeping the area of the 6th green, saw the subject armed with what he perceived to be a rifle and immediately discharged his firearm.
How about shot at him? Shot. Don't discharge. Don't engage. No, he shot at him. We shot. I shot his rifle trying to stop and or kill this person who appeared to be pointing a rifle at President. Stop saying then president. He's a president. You're always a president. You say, ladies and gentlemen, then President George Bush. No, you don't do that. I know they love to do that, but let's lose this unnecessary honorific, so to speak.
The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene.
The subject who did not have line of sight fled the scene. So because he couldn't aim or again, is this clear? No.
He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent.
He did not. But what about President Trump? Nobody else.
With reports of gunfire, the former.
Now, I don't know about you, but I think it'd be clear. Did he fire at the president? I know he didn't shoot at the agent. Thank God. Thank God. But what about that? Is this very clear?
Our president's close protection detail immediately evacuated the president to a safe location. The protective methodologies of the Secret Service were effective yesterday.
Well, yes, and I'm glad for that. But we, first of all, have a person who doesn't really seem to be very, very good. The president did not apparently move up far enough or was in line of sight for this fellow with an SKS. By the way, it's a Soviet-style rifle. Let me make sure we get that. Not an AK-47, which could be automatic or semi-automatic. So the reason why it didn't happen was, had he just been moving and had this very keen eye Secret Service agent, God bless him, had he not seen this barrel protruding, nothing would have happened. But that's why this thing happened. See, I hate this cop talk. I love this. I love this. Assets don't get pronouns. Identify as gunsman. That's interesting. You know, one of the things we used to have these police officers, we used to have these troopers. They wore the Smokey Bear hats. And all these troopers talk like this. And you could have somebody named Pepito Hernandez. Listen, I'm going to testify today for the DUI. Okay. And as soon as they say your name, Trooper Pepito Hernandez. Who's this? What is this, Buford Buster? I activated my overhead emergency beacons and alighted from my vehicle. I walked up to the car and there was a strong odor of alcohol about his person. He fumbled for his license, registration, and proof of insurance and used the car for support. They all say, why are you talking like this? I alighted from my car. You mean I got out of the car? Yes. And activated my overhead emergency beacon. You mean you turned your siren on? Yeah. I mean, they do this. They love this. I don't know why. You know who's great? Grady Judd from Polk County. You see this man here? This is a prevert. Okay. Now, yesterday, yet again, sending a shockwave across the bow, so to speak, of those individuals who are hanging on and clinging to vestigial forms of activated line of sight media, those involved in the front line of activated of this, and perpetrated to the front of sight and activated emergency out loud communications portal, namely social media. President Trump took to the world and provided this.
He didn't exactly hit the target the way he wanted. There's something going on. I mean, perhaps it's God wanting me to be president to save this country. Nobody knows, but when I made the right turn, it's very unusual because the people weren't on the right. The people were standing out in front of me. When I turned my head at an exact 90-degree angle, the bullet came zooming by and clipped my ear. And
do you hear this? Do you hear the way he speaks? This is a fireside chat. You feel like you're in a room. Just look at this. Look at the group. 158, then 1,000. It's played and played and played and played. Millions. Believe me. There were more people on that little graphic than heard the entire Hillary Clinton speech, except people like us who bring it to your attention for reasons that are hard to explain. And then there's these other people who, again, try to perpetuate this notion of relevance. And there's nothing worse than that. There's nothing worse. You know, when people do oldies, have you seen, by the way, these terrible instances of Frankie Valli recently? Have you seen these? Oh, dear God. Frankie Valli's 90-some years old, and he walks out and he doesn't even move. They just play, big girls, they don't cry, they don't cry. And he's singing on the recording, but he's looking at you doing a Biden, shuffling up, and he's not even moving his lip. I mean, it is the worst. That's not oldies. That's called pathetic. Oldies would be when sometimes, remember on PBS on the weekends, they would have doo-wops, and now the Spinners, and now the Shirelles, and now, that's kind of like oldies. Or maybe Ringo Starr with Lukather and Burton Cummings, that's kind of like. But then there are people who don't know they're oldies, think they're relevant. And the one who was the worst is this lady.
It's going to be so exciting, bringing all the diverse groups across the country together.
Right now, if I went to Times Square and stopped people between 18, how many kids, 18 to 25, do you think know who Oprah Winfrey is? Honey, how many do you think? 10%, maybe, but not who can say, oh, I recognize a person like I recognize, Millard Fillmore, but somebody who can say, this is a person who has some relevance today.
Win with Black women, white women answer the call, the cat ladies,
Cat
the
ladies.
comics for Kamala, the chefs for Kamala, everybody coming together for what I think is going to be one of the biggest voting rallies ever
What was that? Yeah, right.
held. So look at the link below for how to join us and unite for America with a very special guest, Kamala Harris.
She's still doing the thing about, she's doing that voice, that sound from her show from the 80s. She doesn't understand it. I mean, God bless her. And no matter what anybody tells me, tell me why she's a billionaire again. Do you really think she's a billionaire? Where does she get $1 billion? From what? She hasn't made the O magazine? From reruns of her show? What? Where does this come from? I think Taylor Swift may be getting close to billionaire status. Did you ever believe the Kardashians were billionaire? No. But here's the story of all stories. And this is the one that's the most important. This is where I'm wondering, maybe there are white hats. Why would you involve yourself? Why? Why would you involve yourself in engaging or searching P. Diddy when he has been an asset for generations? I also like people who had P. Diddy. This is Jimmy Kimmel and P. Diddy a while back. This didn't age well.
Maybe you could be president. Do you ever think about anything like that?
No.
Really, never?
No.
Why?
I wouldn't.
Now imagine this guy one day having eventually the same image as that fellow who was found dispatched in his federal holding cell. The person whose name we don't ever mention by virtue of whatever. But imagine you're looking at him this way. And now everybody, Obama, Jimmy Kimmel, this guy.
Make a good president.
You don't think you'd be good?
I wouldn't really pass any of the things that you have to pass to, but I guess Trump did it.
Yeah, no.
No.
You laugh at Trump all you want.
Nah, I like doing what I'm doing.
You like doing it.
I like doing what I'm doing. I'll bet you do. Well, you used to like what you're doing.
Yeah. There's no fun in that, is there?
I don't know if I could be responsible for the whole country.
You know what? I think that at this point, almost anybody would be doing a better job.
See, he's funny. You laugh about that. Go ahead.
What about you?
Yeah, and I wouldn't do a better job, but I think I would, you know what, I would, if you agreed to run for president, I would be happy to be your running mate. Let's put it that way, all right?
Okay, remember those words. Somebody, by the way, somebody had, honey, a great little pun. They said, poof, daddy, poof, gone. Do you know that when Obama and everybody was hanging around him, just like when people went to various islands or hung around people, including Prince Andrew and others, do you know that the highest level of security agencies and the like, intel from all over the world, know exactly what this person is, especially when they've been an asset? You want to talk about assets? An asset. And what are the two important issues today? Two important. The two important issues, the two important industries are, of course, human trafficking and blackmail, extortion. You send these people out, and then you have them engage others, record everything, bring them back, arrest them to let everybody know we have this person. That's all. You know how many times the FBI years ago in the old days would create the illusion that somebody was flipping when in fact they weren't. How they would sometimes not arrest someone to give other people, let's say, an OC or organized crime, the idea that maybe they were cooperating. I mean, this is not anything new. Big John says, but the authorities were very proud of themselves. Indeed, Tim Stemp says he spent 10 minutes to explain something that could have been said in 1 minute. This is the Secret Service agent. By the way, he's doing his best to try to regain morale after Cheadle and the DEI horror show. Spandex says his talking points were written by a cat lady with blue hair. Thank you. Evan says, do the typical Americans really need this language to feel they are getting credible news? I have so many friends who think YouTube means it is automatically fake news and crazy talk. Think YouTube means it? Oh, I don't know. That could very well be. I mean, there are some folks who think that. There are folks who honestly do not believe. I one time was talking to someone who was in the news business, and I'm trying to say, well, I'm doing this thing. Well, what channel? How do I hear it? What channel? What do you mean, what channel? What do you mean, what channel? They could not understand. There are people right now, if you say, Joe Rogan, do you know who Joe Rogan is? They would say, I don't know. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't understand the name. Joe Rogan. Who's Joe Rogan? Now, you can laugh at this, but there are people, believe it or not, and remember something. There are folks who are trying their best to maintain their own sense of relevance. Number one, Hillary Clinton has to say, listen to me. I still matter. Well, not really. No, I still matter. I'm still relevant. I'm still critical. I still matter. Okay, fair enough. No, you don't understand. She doesn't. She doesn't. There's one thing that people have said. It's very interesting. Jon Stewart kind of taught people this. The moment you leave, you lose connection. There are people who know who Bill Maher is, whether you like it or not, because he's never left. Samantha Bee, gone. Trevor Howard, Trevor Noah, gone. Just gone. That's why Rachel had a problem there. She's making so much money. You know what it is to make like $35-40 million a year, and you're on like 3 times a. Say we talked about Hannity. He's on a lot. They do their thing. They really work for their money. They realize this thing is gone. One of the reasons why is they base themselves on a superiority, on a belief system that what we're saying is important. And you have to look at the motivation behind people. Now, going back to Diddy. Diddy represents, this has been going on for so long. Because remember, there are different people. If I'm in intel, if I'm in the shadow government, if I'm in the echelons of whatever you want to call it, I want to make sure I have a stable of folks that I can go to at any time, in order to get people that I own. The fellow who was dispatched and basically hit in front of everybody, he could have just disappeared. I promise you, nobody would have heard of him. It might have even had a bigger sprite through the group. If all of a sudden this fellow goes, he's not here anymore. We don't know where he is. Nobody would have clamored, but no, they wanted to make sure it was a spectacle. But that guy right there, look at the players, R. Kelly. And when you're in that world, R. Kelly, Shannon Sharp. Why do you think all of a sudden Shannon Sharp was in the news the other day? Remember Shannon Sharp? He had that audio. Okay, just remember. Cat Williams being very low. Monique keeping on the low. There are other people too. People like Snoop Dogg, not into this stuff. He's just over there doing his weed and all that kind of jazz. But when you have people like Oprah, Tyler Perry, Gayle King, the higher echelons of this aspect of the entertainment community. Each of them knows dirt you can't believe. And there has been so much dirt on Diddy for the longest time. People are saying, how much were you recording? How much and how much is out there that could be also provided in lawsuits and the like? You're also going to ask yourself the question, where do people get all this money for all these mansions? Where do you get this? They were talking about, did you see the other day Mariah Carey? She's got some place there. There's this one city something bank of New York, City National. There's this bank to the stars. She's mortgaged 180 million. I mean, just Mariah Carey. What are you talking about? Who is it? It's almost as though, and I can't say this for sure, but it's almost as though there's a group that says, listen, if you play ball with us, we will guarantee you have nothing to worry about. Look what we did for George Clooney. George Clooney has not had a hit of any sort, but we will make sure that at some Federal Reserve window in your bank account, we're going to put a number 2 in another column. So how about 200 million? You think that'll be okay? It's just 200 million. You've got 200 million. What? Because we say so. Look at it. There's your bank. Ta-da, 200 million. That'll get your attention. You willing to work with us? Absolutely. Can you get all your Hollywood friends? They've been trying to get Hollywood since the days of Louis B. Mayer and Frank Capra. This is the story. And these stories, remember the Clinton Foundation? People forgot about that. Haiti, forgot about that. How about Sean Penn? Remember him? He was doing all these folks. If I were to lay out the storyline for all of Hollywood, wouldn't you love to have an entire stable of actors and actresses you own, especially in an industry that nobody cares about them anymore? Nobody cares. I saw somebody the other day of Robert Downey Jr. on Broadway. You think anybody's going to, I mean, that's interesting. Yeah, that's good. That's good. You know, Marvel. Yeah. It's just a different time now. It's a completely different time. Now, let me show you another story. And they're always trying to send you a message. Sometimes people get too big for their britches. Who is it? Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg. Yep. Why her? Remember, she was the darling. They loved Greta Thunberg. They thought Greta Thunberg was the greatest thing ever. God knows how much they squirreled away. God knows how much her family got. God knows. Remember, where's your bank? We're going to put a 2 in there. Why? Because we're in charge of central banks. What are you talking about? Money is like 2. You've got 20 million, 200 million, whatever it is. Matt Carlton, thank you. Matt's a brand new member. So she was the best. Now they told her, now listen, Greta, remember, this is not about you, honey. I don't want to hear this, you're autistic and on the spectrum and all that kind of jazz. Fine. Understand something. This is not about you throwing your balls in our face, so to speak. We're not going to hear so watch it. Well, she decides, oh, no, I'm going to speak against Gaza. Okay. All right. And lo and behold, now go on X, Twitter, look at this. She's an anti-Semite. Isn't that something? They despise her like that. Overnight, they despise her. How do you think that is? What do you think it's like, going back, changing subject? What about the main fellow who was maybe I don't even know if he's an assassin. He didn't try anything. There was a gun there. I think we can presume, but there was no line of sight and trying to decode what that Secret Service agent said. But this is a man who writes screed after screed, book after book about Putin. He wants to dispatch Putin. He wants to work hand in hand with right-wing nationalists and the Azov battalion, and he looks like a nut. What does that look like for the cause when they say, wait a minute, who is this guy? He's pro-Zelensky? Yeah. He is? But he's crazy. Right. So the crazy guy is for Zelensky? Yes. And not Putin? No. So the crazy guy is not. Okay. Now there's a whole other world out there. There's a brand new, I was watching this incredible piece. And I cannot, this is called the All-in-One Podcast. This was just hours ago. This was John Mearsheimer and Jeffrey Sachs at the All-In Summit 2024. Absolutely brilliant. Did you see this? John Mearsheimer is my guy. John Mearsheimer, Jeffrey Sachs. This is just, they are the biggest things anybody has ever heard in the history of current opinion. They are absolutely 100% the most powerful voices completely against this narrative. And whether it's not just with Ukraine or whatever, but there's the Duran and others. And don't forget Gonzalo Lira. We'll never forget Gonzalo Lira and Julian Assange and others. There's a group of people out there who are so powerful, so big, so important, so without peer. I don't think people recognize how this thing matters. I really don't. I don't think people understand how everything has changed drastically. And they want you, they think, I don't think they realize how many of us. And he has this expression. And this expression that he has is very interesting. And his expression is something to the effect of, he says, remember, and this is it's seemingly crude, but it's not. The point is, he goes, remember, we can drown them in our urine. Meaning there are so many of us, that these people don't understand it. They don't recognize this. See, they don't understand also that they have no say as to what's happening regarding President Trump. Let me ask you a question. If there were no, how do I say this? If there were no social media today, do you think President Trump would have been elected in 2016? Let me ask you a question. Another way of saying it, do you think 2016 got him elected? Do you think that without that Trump and social media, or that social media were, because it's a plural now, media, the social media were responsible for Trump? Do you believe so? Do you believe so? Do you believe that if you did not have social media, if you did not have Twitter and Facebook or whatever, that there would not be a Trump? What do you think? AP says no. Does no mean no that social media had no effect? No, he wouldn't be president? Yes, he said yes. Let me see if I can say this again. You have to finish your. I'll tell you what I believe would, and you see if you agree with me. Donald Trump would never have been president if there were no social media. If it was CBS, NBC, Fox News, never. If there were no internet, Donald Trump would have never been elected. None. If you could go back in time, would Ronald Reagan have won? Yes. Ronald Reagan would have been perfect for social media. Absolutely positive. There's a group of people who never ever see, they never bargained for this. There are a group of people who came out of the woodwork, and they were the longest time ignored by people. They just did not have any say. And 30 years ago, they would have just gone to work, come home, and maybe told a friend or somebody at the bar or somebody in there, maybe what their thoughts were. But now the level of inclusion and the level of participation on the part of people is so great. That's where TDS comes from. That's where the Karen comes from. See, you may think that Karens are a bad thing. Yes, sometimes they are. But the good part is they have the opinion, or at least the framework or the platform of which people are saying, no, I'm upset about that. And whether it's that parking spot or you arresting me or Trump or anything for that matter, I'm going to say this. And I'm going to say something, and I'm going to say it in my own words. I'm going to sit. Remember when people would sit in the front seat of their car and scream? That was my favorite. Sean Martin says, Trump rode Twitter to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I believe so. But it wasn't Twitter. It's the fact that it allowed people to engage, as that Secret Service agent would say, to engage, to be a part of this. It allowed people the opportunity to be a part of it. Trump also worked perfectly. Hillary Clinton realized she doesn't work perfectly. She needs other people to prop her up. See, the good thing about social media, if you're really good at it, and we've yet to see it really ever. And this is something I've tried to tell Trump, well, not him, but try to put it out there. He needs to talk to people differently. I told you that when the president was the president, I would have said, I'm going to give you a tour of the White House. I would have had a good film crew, and I would say, come on, let's go. Let me show you. Let me show you what's great about being the president. One thing is we have a staff here. This is the kitchen staff. They're all lined up. These are great people. This is Marty and JR. These are the great people who are on staff 24 hours a day. Do you know what that is? I always make sure they don't. There is nobody here on Christmas. There is nobody. We have a skeleton crew. Nobody is here on a Christmas. I'm not going to ask for a ham sandwich at 3 a.m. No, but that's it. Somebody told this story one time. I never forgot it. Bill Clinton was out on the tarmac, and there was Air Force One. And Bill Clinton, and to see Air Force One, for you to be at the bottom of it, to look up, this is the biggest jet. There's what, 2 of them? 3? This is the biggest thing anybody's ever seen. Nobody's ever on the ground. They look up at this. Normally you look and you look out the window and you look at this thing, United States of America. I mean, it's just incredible. So Bill Clinton, the story says, did one of these. And you hear this, and they're starting the engine. And he said, that's the best part about being president. That's it. See, I would use social media in ways nobody would ever do. I would do it. I would have it. I would be at my desk. I would say, I want to explain something to you. This is critical to know. We have a bill that we signed. It's coming up. And I want you to understand what's happening. It's a bill, and they call it a bipartisan bill. It's about the border. And they're going to say to you that I somehow killed this bipartisan bill. Now, yeah, it was bipartisan because both parties supported it. But let me tell you what the bill would say. The bill would basically not change a thing. Here are the provisions right here. Here. And if you want to go to my website online, whitehouse.gov, here it is, here, and here. And I wish I could do line item vetoes and all that, but this is the problem I have. This is what they do. Oh, and this other bill, look at this. They're adding on, I don't know why I'm holding this up. They're adding on this provision for somebody's library. This congressman who promised his people a library in Beaver Falls, Oregon. So they're going to Christmas tree this. They're going to tack this on. And I think that's crummy, but I want you to be aware of that. Imagine the president explaining things to you. Imagine that. Imagine if the president said, one of the things that's most important in the world of politics is to be able to put yourself in the position where you ask yourself, how is it that people think about us, and what do we think about other people? In 1962, President John Kennedy was heralded as a warrior, as a brave man, for telling then the Soviet Union, you are not going to put nuclear weapons in Cuba 90 miles away. We have a thing called the Monroe Doctrine. Anybody got a problem with that? No, it's called the Monroe Doctrine. Okay. So when you see Russia and you see Ukraine right here, and you have a deal that was going to be, 2 years ago, that was going to be entered into between Zelensky and Putin, but Boris Johnson said, oh, no, you don't. No. This is what this is about. Now, did we want to invade Cuba? No. Do we want to invade Cuba? No. But we drew a red line. We said, you're not going to do this. And President Kennedy was successful. And from the beginning, their position is, you're not going to have a foreign country arm itself with missiles on our border. And that's their position. That's what people are saying. This is what this is about. You have to understand this. Has a president ever explained to you anything about history? Crypto says, yes, let's town hall vote daily. Thank you. Well, interesting. But if the president said, let me explain this to you, let me tell you what this is about, let me bring this to your attention, let me make you aware of something. Did you know, and this is critical, did you know that in Springfield, Ohio, this was a town of 58,000 good people. In Springfield, Ohio, all of a sudden, they dropped 20, well, not in one day, but 20,000 Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. Not in little Haiti in Miami, not with big Creole who spoke the language and the food. No, Springfield, Ohio. Why do you think that was? Why would they do that? Many people suspect the reason why is because they wanted those people to turn around and to vote because of census and new house seats and the like. Now, why did all those folks have driver's licenses? Well, motor voter. When you give somebody a driver's license, they get to vote. And who doesn't want a driver's license? And it goes on and on and on. Has anybody ever explained this? No. They talk to you in soundbite. This is the potential, which is now so famous. All right, my friends, before we forget, before we depart, let me tell you something which is so critical. And this is something which I cannot put into words in terms of how important this is. That is the great folks at My Patriot Supply, but specifically preparewithlionel.com. Preparewithlionel.com. And right now, as we speak, learn about this incredible deal. You can save $50 when you order today on a 4-week emergency food kit. I don't know how long they're going to do this one, but this is one of those. Okay, you want to do a starter deal? This is the one. But you're not going to stop there. Go to preparewithlionel.com and see what is available for you and your family to prepare for days where you know there's going to be a problem. Don't know what it is. Could be everything from supply chain to ransomware to who knows. And then, dear friends, mypillow.com, promo code Lionel is still one of the greatest groups, the greatest folks, the greatest. They are just simply the greatest. Go right now and see for yourself what is available. The deals aplenty. The deals aplenty. From everything from pillows, just go. Because when you say mypillow.com, you think it's just about pillows. Yeah, it's pillows. But everything you can imagine. mypillow.com, promo code Lionel. And let me also remind you while we're at it, on October the 26th, it's going to be one of the biggest days ever in terms of this. You know what I'm not saying I'm doing this or Tucker's doing it. But Tucker is bringing people in for a night of, dare I say, spoken word, Q&A, and a lot of other things which are really, really critical for people to know. And that's why this is so important. October the 26th, doors open at 6. There it is right now. That's the ticket number. This is a chance to sit and hear and listen and muse and opine as to the biggest election in your lifetime. And finally, Mrs. L has been in the front lines. She is without peer. Let me just put it that way. And she has been telling people from the beginning what they have to know regarding Diddy and others. Remember, as I said before, this is important for you to grasp and understand. The two biggest areas right now, are human trafficking and extortion. Follow Mrs. L on YouTube at Lynn's Warriors. There's the link. Just click this link and I put it in the discussion section. She's doing some great work with Nancy Grace, who, by the way, Mrs. L is the go-to person because she's been telling people for the longest time, this is what's happened. But a lot of folks have been kind of like, well, we don't know. No, listen to her. Listen to her. And we're also going to be doing a Mrs. L, Lori Lewis, a Mrs. L live show. Absolutely. We're going to be doing it, and make sure that you sign up so you'll be on the list, so to speak, when we have live streams and new videos. Carla, the cooking CEO, says the city commissioner, Rob Rue, rents all the houses to the illegal migrants. Isn't that something? Absolutely horrid. So listen, Lori Lewis, thank you. Carla, the casting CEO, Crypto Domini, Sean Martin, Matt Cawthon, a new member, Evan Webb, Spandex, Tim Stempf, Big John, Crypto Domini, Andrew T, Ryan, Pilgrim Media, Brad Rung, and the lovely and talented and enigmatic David Mudry, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, that's where we are today. Make sure you stay tuned. We will be back this eve at 7 p.m. bringing you this stuff. Remember, I promise you, you're going to hear a number of things during the day where you're going to leave and you're going to say, you know what? It makes sense. How come nobody's talked to me like that? Because nobody has the time, and frankly, nobody knows what I know. All right, dear friends, have a great and glorious day. Thank you so much. Remember, President Trump is going to win. He is going to win. And that's one of the reasons why they are freaking out. And that's also when they become the most dangerous. All right? You got it? Okay. All right, dear friends, have a great and glorious day. See you tonight at 7. And until then, remember, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you. Dead.